Boom. Yeah. Listen, John, I don't know if I should feel like I'm getting off the Titanic or getting on like
No,
the cruiser from like Return of the Jedi or Star Wars or something with that intro.
I don't know. Something funky's happening though. I know
Yeah.
that. And it ain't the Titanic.
Nah, it's like you're like in that suspense mode. Just
Yeah.
wait. What's going to happen, right?
You're
What's
you're
going to
running
happen?
through the woods or something, like chasing after something or getting chased.
We're getting shit, yeah, like something from like San Andreas or something. I don't know. But welcome everybody. Tony Jigsaw Cotillo here, John Pittsburgh Coker, part of the Heat Ratio Sports, and we are episode. I don't even know if it's like 15, 16, but this week 9. We're talking everything from stars, stiffs, waiver pickups, lineup prediction, DFS values. We talk it all. We have fun on the Firebox. Jenna's already checking in. What is up, Jenna? As you've seen, Devontae Adams scored already, so that is a good thing. Jenna's already talking about Niners about to get blown up. So we're going to talk so much tonight. We try to cram it as much as we can in 1 hour's time frame. And by the end of these shows, like somebody, John, me and John did this one last week, and I forget who the boy was on Twitch that was blowing us up, but he was like, "Dude, your mouth has to hurt by the end of the show." Like, I just, I'm so dry mouth by the end. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But John's wearing his Greg Lloyd jersey tonight, and Jenna's checking it, says her favorite night of the week. We really appreciate that. We appreciate the love from everybody, especially you, Jenna, because you are always there. John, let's get – I have to get right into that before we even talk about – because, listen, it's week 9, and waivers are pretty light because, unless somebody really gets injured or there's like a major COVID week or something like that, waiver wire to me is going to be pretty light. So most of these guys should have been picked up already. Maybe you get a practice squad guy that comes up, but first things off the bat, and again, this is a perfect question for you. And before we recap anything and we preview any games, Antonio Brown. I've been getting tons of questions back and forth about Antonio Brown. What can we expect from Antonio Brown? This in a nutshell. Is he going to decline values on the Tampa Bay wide receiving core? Is he going to play like we're accustomed to Antonio Brown play? Is he going to come in right away and log 75 to 80 snaps? John, in a nutshell, what do you see from a fantasy standpoint from Antonio Brown?
Well, number one, how often does Mike Evans and Chris Godwin actually play together?
That is true.
In all reality, his value definitely hinges on their health. And when one of them is out, which seems to be like 70% of the time, he's going to be in there and he's going to put up potentially wide receiver 1 stats. Brady is passing the ball. Gronk's starting to catch fire. Evans can catch balls. If Godwin's there and Brown, they may all cancel each other out a little bit because Brady's really not the one to, pound the rock to like the same guy like a Hopkins or an Adams. He didn't have that guy throughout his career for the most part, except for like Moss. But, outside of that, he's going to find the guy that's open. And you know what I mean? And then when you start covering him, he'll find the other guy. So, in a nutshell, I would say AB is definitely a flex play and quite possibly can be your number 2 receiver if Evans or Godwin is out. But we got to see what he got left in the tank. He's had a time off. He's definitely a smart player. He definitely works hard. But you are coming into a new system, a new coach, even though he played with them way back when. He was like a first or second year guy when Arians left. So it's not like they have this big, relationship together, because even then Antonio Brown wasn't even really a starter. So he got to get used to things. He really didn't have time to get used to Brady even in New England. He played 1 game. Exactly. So it's going to take some time to, get himself accustomed to the game. But I can definitely see 5 for 60 and a touch, like, kind of often.
Yeah, I think you're right. I do. I think he will be productive. I don't think if for anybody thinks he's going to get you those 9-10 catches every week, listen, relax, pump the brakes a little bit, let him get his feet wet. But Antonio Brown he is going to be fantasy productive. He is going to be very useful, especially if you did pick him up late, especially if, listen, there's teams out there in traditional fantasy that already have their number 1 and 2 slot locked up, and now you throw Antonio Brown into your flex spot, into your number 3 hole. I mean, my lord, I don't know if there's a better player ever to be able to put in that slot. So he could really listen. He could. I'm going to go out on a limb, but he could win somebody a Super Bowl this year. I really fully believe that because exactly what you said, John. Mike Evans, listen, he has a rapport with Brady. We get it, but he's not consistent. Mike Evans is not consistent. Chris Godwin, I still think is the better receiver, but he can't stay healthy. Chris Godwin just can't stay healthy, right? And then Scotty Miller's a slot guy. Gronk's going to get his time, but Antonio Brown has the number 1 opportunity to be the number 1 guy. He really does in Tampa Bay if, again, he's healthy. Now, Jen, this is a good question for you as well because this is in your division. Jen is checking and says someone dropped Hollywood Brown. Is he worth a pickup? Now, that's a good question because I went into this year not expecting a ton out of Marquise Brown. Now, he did show some good Instagram videos. He did get pumped up. He bulked up a little bit, 15 pounds of muscle, wanted to be the guy. Here's what I can say about Hollywood Brown before I get to John's opinion. One thing that bothered me about Hollywood Brown is he came out after last week, threw a tweet out there again on social media talking about you have to use your soldiers. Basically, it was an underlining comment, criticism of his man Lamar Jackson not getting him the ball, and then he deleted it. Like that already bothers me. But from a fantasy standpoint, John, I don't think he's consistent enough. What about you?
Lamar Jackson isn't consistent enough, and that's what he rides on. Look at the pay. I think I heard today, I don't know, it was probably on Sirius XM radio on my short drive. But they said the worst passing team in the NFL is the Jets, and they're only right behind the Ravens. I'm sorry, you're ranked 31st in the NFL in passing. How good can your best receiver be? And his best receiver is Mark Andrews. I mean, in all reality, let's get real. He was slinging the rock because the run game is not as potent this year as it was in the past because they used to pound you, and just keep getting the first downs. And then once they got you putting all the guys up, then he'd hit you with the long ball. He's not doing it now. You know what I mean? He's getting there, but like they're getting into a 3rd and long situation and not taking the shot. They're trying to throw short throws and it's not working. So, I mean, the offense is just not running up to, what it is. I think he's definitely worth a flyer. I mean, look at the season that Jackson did have last year. So it all depends who you're going to drop. I mean, yeah, I may pick him up, but it's literally, it's like putting a bet down, with not great odds.
Now you're right. And if you look at his overall numbers, his average is all over the map, right? He breaks out with a nice 5 for 101 in the first week, 20.2 yard average. Then he's 8.4, 6.5. Then he goes to 21, and he's 12, 14, and he's 3. Only has 2 touchdowns on the year, okay? And only twice has he gone above 5 receptions or more. That's not a good number when you're talking about, a guy that honestly came in this year being talked about as a wide receiver 1. Because of the situation he was in. So, I think I agree with John a little bit. I think you do. Yeah, to me, you have to take a flyer on him. If you have somebody good to drop, like I wouldn't drop somebody that's an A-lister, so to speak, but I would drop somebody for Hollywood Brown just for the prospects of what he could offer you going forward. 100%, especially when you have Lamar Jackson. I'll tell you what. Now, here's another guy I want to ask about. Where did T.Y. Hilton go? Like he to me is one of the biggest mysteries in fantasy football, John. I honestly, listen, T.Y. Hilton. I thought this could have been the year. You bring in Phillip Rivers, you bring in a veteran quarterback. No more of that makeshift stuff that happened last year. When all of a sudden Andrew Luck decides to retire. And I'll tell you what, T.Y. Hilton, is he even playable anymore? I mean, I like sometimes I don't even know if he's on the field. John, what happened to T.Y. Hilton as a fantasy guy?
He's a free agent in a couple of my leagues.
It's crazy.
Granted, one's a 10-teamer and the other one only has a 5 bench spot. So when you got bye weeks and whatever, but no, I mean, he's not getting the volume, number one. You know what I mean? Rivers isn't really a guy. I mean, they do it to the tight ends. You know what I mean? Naheem Hines is there. They want to run the ball. It's really not a high-powered passing offense, and I don't think Phillip Rivers, like Hilton's a guy that that's a guy you take shots down the field with. I don't know. He's just not trusting him. He's not treating him like a number one. So I mean, I don't know what you do with him. He's not getting the targets. Period.
He's not.
And it's the volume. Like if you're not getting it, you got to get off the field. I don't trust any of their receivers in all reality.
It's crazy because, I mean, if you look at listen, I get it. He's age 30, right? And he had an injury riddled season in 2019, right? He was back and forth on and off the field. But you're talking about a guy who consistently hit the 1,100-yard plateau, 130 plus targets, 85 plus catches, right? I mean, this was a guy who was exciting. One bad year, and then all of a sudden he's done. I mean, like really, like the talent just went and disappeared just like that. I don't understand it, because even though, like you said about Phillip Rivers, the thing about Phillip Rivers is, he had a guy like Keenan Allen, he had a guy like T.Y. Hilton and Keenan Allen. And he always fed Keenan Allen the ball. And I know Phillip Rivers loves him, the tight end. My man loves him, the tight end. But at the end of the day, I mean, T.Y. Hilton is still a talented player. And it shows me maybe, John, maybe he's not getting open. Maybe the volume isn't there because T.Y. Hilton's just not getting open. He's not running the routes anymore. He can't get off the line. I'm not sure, but all I know is T.Y. Hilton, like you said, he is not a fantasy star anymore. He's not even a fantasy plug-in anymore. He's not even maybe he's a bye week fill-in at best. And it's a shame because he had some really, really productive years.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's a different type of player than Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen's a decently sized human being, you know what I mean, as Coach Dave would say. He's a large human being.
I love
he's like, he's like 6'2", I don't know, 210, and you got T.Y. Hilton at 5'10", $185 or something. So there's a big difference in just the style of play. Like Keenan Allen will use his body. That doesn't mean that T.Y. can't go in the middle and can't do the same types of things, but I think Rivers just likes those bigger bodied receivers. That's what a tight end is. It's a big bodied receiver. He prefers that than the smaller guys. So yeah, I mean, it's Rivers. It was Brissett last year, and you look at when he had Andrew Luck, he was relevant.
You're right, man. You're 100% correct. I mean, he was relevant when Andrew Luck, and he's irrelevant no longer. And Jen is checking in saying, where did Elliott go? And there's a guy right there in Zeke who's just given up. Zeke gave up. Say what you want. This has nothing to do with talent. Zeke packed it in. He said, I'm done. I'm out. See you in 2021. That's what he said. He might as well listen. He might as well just go on the IR Corona list. I mean, because he's not going to do anything. And the fumbling's a real issue with Zeke Elliott because from a fantasy perspective, you don't want your guy going out there dropping a ball like Tiki Barber back in the day, in the sense that he's not going to get the reps anymore. I mean, they'll use Tony Pollard. They're not afraid to use Tony Pollard. And again, they paid Zeke all that money. But again, we talked about this yesterday with Carson Wentz. If you can't hold on to the ball and you consistently turn the ball over, you're not putting your team in best position to win. So if you're not doing that, you can't be on the field. And that continually kills your fantasy value. And that is one thing that's happening right now with Zeke Elliott. Now, one of the other guys I want to talk about before we get into the DFS locks of the week and we talk about going forward with some values and some gems, Travis Fulgham. Now, John, I know John loves when Tony does this, right? John loves when he does this, when Tony starts to predict what a guy's stats would be over the course of an entire year. John hates it, okay? He hates it, but I have to do it, right? Number one, Travis Fulgham leads all NFL receivers, 453 yards since week 4, which is when he was pressing the duty against the San Francisco 49ers. He has 4 touchdowns. Only one of the only players that have 4 touchdowns since then at the wide receiver position. Only 10 other ones. He's in that group. He is the 27th ranked wide receiver right now, and he missed 3 games. Okay, just to put it in perspective where he's at right now, his numbers through a 16-game season: 112 catches, 1,506 yards, and 13 touchdowns. Now, obviously, that's not going to happen. But one my point is, this guy is always open. This guy has the trust and the respect of his quarterback. And week in and week out, we keep saying it's an aberration. It's not anymore. He's done this for 4 straight weeks. 4 straight weeks against teams like the Baltimore Ravens. So this kid's legit. He is legit. But what I want to ask you is he a wide? I know he's a wide receiver one for the Eagles, but is he a wide receiver one for fantasy for the rest of the season? What do you think, John?
Not a number one fantasy. No, he is. No, he is not. We talked about getting healthy. Goddard's back. Rager's back. I still think he will be the most productive receiver for sure. But I mean, we don't even know if Wentz is back. We touched on that yesterday with the Heat Ratio podcast. But he is their number one. I think, yes, you can bank on 5 to 6 catches and 70, 80 yards on a weekly basis, and he'll probably find the end zone every other week. So, I mean, it's solid. It's definitely a flex play, maybe a wide receiver too. I just don't know how consistent that'll be. I mean, I do like him, especially in daily. You can't go prices. Actually, I don't know what he is this week, what he's priced at, but the past couple weeks, yeah, he was a guy I went after. I think, those are the stats he's going to put up, and the price tag was just right.
Yeah, well, obviously they're on a bye this week. The Eagles, the Rams, the Browns, and the Bengals, right? So,
yeah,
well, yeah, but he has been a value, but the value, obviously, we know in DraftKings, you will go up as you become productive, right? So he's going to be getting paid, right? He literally he's going to be sitting in that $6,000 to $7,000 range. He is, because he's just putting up those kind of numbers. And to John's credit, what he's saying is, are you willing to pay that kind of money for Travis Fulgham instead of a guy like, say, Tyler Lockett or Adam Thielen? A more established player that you can trust more and more. I'll tell you, that's the one thing about DFS. When you can get these guys early before they blow up, that's when the maximum value is. But when you get a guy at 4 games, okay, he's going to start getting paid like a guy who's been consistent for 25 games. It's really hard to compare him. You got to wait. You got to wait it out. It's all about value, right? It's all about value. You have to wait it out. Jenna says, I picked up Zach Moss this week for death. That's a great pickup. I can't believe you were able to pick him up. Because again, I still think he's a more talented back than Singletary, and I think they do know that. I think their roles will flip. But at the end of the day, to have Zach Moss on your waiver wire, I mean, that's tremendous. I really, really like that. But let's talk about some DFS locks. Okay, we do this every week. We base all our stuff on the DFS daily DraftKings sports lineup. Now, we do talk traditional fantasy as well. So when we're talking about players that we look at, we're talking about traditional. But when we talk about locks of the week, DFS locks of the week, we are talking about the DraftKings daily fantasy system. And then we're going to do you some gems. We talk, again, not to toot my own horn. John has done it recently. I have done it as well. We pick guys out that are really low down on the charts tonight. Listen, tonight, I don't know if it'll happen, okay, but I took 2 guys for $400 and $200, $600 total as 2 locks to score touchdowns tonight. Now, if that happens, and this is Tyler Ervin and Trent Taylor, again, looking at the landscape of what's going on with the San Francisco 49ers, they have been decimated by COVID. Right? They've been decimated. So Trent Taylor is the number 1 wide receiver tonight for the San Francisco 49ers. Either way, John talks about volume. Trent Taylor's got to catch at least 1 ball tonight, right? He's got to catch at least 1 ball, you would think. So, Tyler Ervin, listen, I know Aaron Jones is back and he's active, but listen, they're not going to need Aaron Jones. He played a lot of snaps in the first drive. They already scored. Okay, this is going to be a high-scoring game for the Green Bay Packers. The Niners may be able to get on the board. Either way, they're going to be garbage points for some of these players. So this is what we look at. So, John, when we talk about, we're going to start like we always do, right from the quarterback position, and we're going to look at, our quarterback locks of the week. Now, I got screwed the week before last with Patrick Mahomes. Who would have thought that Patrick Mahomes, going to Denver? I know there was weather conditions out there, and he didn't have a great game. And he comes back last week against the Jets and he goes off. When I'm predicting that he won't, because I figured it was going to be a weird game, which it wasn't. It was a typical Patrick Mahomes game. This week, number one again, no surprise, Patrick Mahomes at $8,100. We talk about this all the time. Is that a lock for that money? They're playing Carolina. I don't think there's a bigger lock in my book than Patrick Mahomes, only because of that defense. The other guy I would look at as a lock is Deshaun Watson playing against Jacksonville at 7,100. So for me, if I want to save myself $1,000, I'm going to go Deshaun Watson. But for me, both those guys will average the maximum point per value for their pick. John, who do you got?
Yeah, I don't know that I'm with you with Mahomes. That once you get over that 8,000 price tag, I got to be very confident. And just like you said, what you expected with the Jets, and he didn't. He performed when we didn't. We thought it was going to be a blowout, which it was. But maybe they just run the rock. Maybe who knows. Bottom line is, I still don't trust this game. From week to week, especially when it's against a weaker opponent. I mean, Carolina, don't get me wrong, Teddy Bridgewater, he got a okay team out there. McCaffrey's supposed to be back, but I mean, I can't see it being that explosive where Mahomes isn't kind of taking advantage of the defense. So I'm not really with you on Mahomes. I'd rather spend $8,000 on a couple other guys on my list. But I'm with you with Deshaun Watson. That's who I have. I got Watson. Only other two intriguing ones. Allen's at 7,000. Look, the Bills haven't looked good. He may just, going up against that Seattle defense, he may just have a chip on his shoulder. It's a home game. So Josh Allen isn't bad at 7,000. I would still go with Watson for the extra $100. But if you need to save a couple hundred, Herbert at 6,800.
Yes.
I'm sorry, until you prove me wrong, Herbert and Keenan Allen are just about as locks as they can be. And this week they have Las Vegas.
I like the Herbert pick. I was zoning in on him as well. I mean, I really like, especially. I mean, we're talking $2,300 less than the top guy. That's a lot of money. $2,300 is a lot of money in DFS. It could save you the difference of starting a wide receiver that gets 20 snaps as opposed to a guy that gets 75. I mean, that it's a complete flip right there when we talk about that. So yeah, I was looking at Justin Herbert too. I mean, listen, the Las Vegas Raiders are not very good. They're 26th in offensive rank, opposition rank against that pass offense at $1,600. I really, really like that pick. I think, I look over this DFS list and they're the ones that come out to me. I was going to say Josh Allen as well. Nobody else is really, flipping the tires a little bit. Maybe, if you're chancing it, and you want to go to it against the 28th ranked defense in Arizona, maybe. But I just think seeing Patrick Peterson out there and Budda Baker with a young guy, I don't think I'd be chancing that at all. I will say a very intriguing pick to me is Drew Lock. Drew Lock's come off a 3-touchdown performance and going up against the Atlanta Falcons, who are not very good in the secondary. So for $5,200, but again, this is DFS, so your quarterback has to produce. So you're taking a risk. If you want to take a risk with a kid like Drew Lock and hope that he can repeat that same performance and save yourself $3,000, it could be. I mean, that could be a move. You never know. Trying to say Justin Jefferson pissed her off last week. And that, again, Justin Jefferson is a tremendous talent, but he's a rookie and he's going to be inconsistent. And unfortunately, he plays with Kirk Cousins. That's the only problem with Justin Jefferson. Kirk Cousins is very unpredictable, very, and very inconsistent. And then when you take that with a rookie wide receiver, listen, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be good, but they're going to get that 1 or 2 bad games in there mixed in. So unfortunately, you got to be ready for it. There's no other way to do it. Let's look at the running back position. And again, strictly DFS, DraftKings, Daily Fantasy, looking for this weekend. Now, again, listen, Dalvin Cook It's hard to say after that performance that Dalvin Cook isn't worth the salary, right? It really is. Now, do we know if Christian McCaffrey's going to play this week? And if he does, is he going to get the full workload? We don't know. I'll be personally honest with you. I think Christian McCaffrey's workload scales back just a little bit for the rest of the year because of the injury that he had. I think they see what they had in Mike Davis, so be careful. I think Christian McCaffrey is going to get spelled a lot, especially the first few games he plays, more than usual, and I think it could continue for the rest of the year. But I'll tell you, there's some picks here, John. I mean, when we go through this list, if you don't want to pay the $8,200 for a guy like Dalvin Cook, listen, Chase Edmonds gets the start, right? Kenyon Drake is out, right, for maybe a couple weeks. They said the injury wasn't as bad, but I don't think he's going to play at all this week, and because I think they did put him on IR, so that's 3 weeks. So Chase Edmonds, we see what he can do. He's going up against Miami. They're not the best defense in the world, kind of middle of the run, 15, 16, 6,800. I think that's a really good value play right there at the quarterback position. And your boy on the other side of the ball. Okay. Yeah. No, I shouldn't say your boy. For some reason, I put him in Pittsburgh. I don't know why, but Antonio Gibson. I think Antonio Gibson is a good value this week against the Giants, who play like Swiss cheese, and he's only $5,800, and he's been showing that he's a number one guy out there in Washington, and he's been very, very productive. Who do you got, John, for the running backs?
Oh, I thought you were actually going to bring up my guy. I mean, look, I have Cook in, and it's not. You always got to watch coming off a big game like that. If you expect to repeat, you're crazy. Okay, he's not going to repeat that. So don't just pay up for him for what you're hoping for is a repeat performance. But I'm still going with Dalvin Cook there. There were some other options. A lot of weeks there was like the Gio Bernard that was super cheap that you could balance it out.
Yep.
And a bunch of other guys, even Antonio Gibson, a few weeks ago, he was a guy that you could get cheap, that had good value. There's really not, there's some value, but nothing in the 4,000s. So Cook, but James Conner, I'm sorry. I think that may be the top running back of the week. Or
wow.
No, I don't know if it's the top running back of the week. I think the highest floor of the week going up against Dallas. Look, I don't think they're going to have to throw the ball all that much. I think James Conner is going to take over and just grind one out against a deflated Dallas defense. That's the guy I would bet on. I would not bet on Roethlisberger on the road. I don't care what team you're playing against. I think James Conner is going to be the guy. So 6,900, James Conner.
How about this one, John? How about your boy Melvin Gordon going up against that Atlanta defense at 5,300?
Well, that's that play. Yeah, there's a couple other guys. If you don't want Cook, Kamara's out there, at 8,000. Connor, I think, is the best value. James Robinson at 7,000 is a little much for my taste. Edmonds, I think, can have a really good game, but to see 6,800 right out the gate, coming off a bye, I think he will have a good game, and he probably will be worth the 6,800. But Zeke at 66. That's going against the Pittsburgh defense, and that they're not going to be able to. But yeah, could you imagine Zeke at 6,600? Like if you would have said that 2 weeks ago, it's like that's 100% ownership. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
CEH at 6,100, and then you said Melvin Gordon, and even the other guy, Damian Harris, who I really like with New England. You can never trust Bill Belichick running. I was going
to say that.
So, but I will tell you, when he's been out there, he's looked good. He's performed. It's like, just give him the rock. Other years, it was Brady and what's going to work this week and what's not. I think Belichick's getting to the realization that, we got to run the rock. And whoever we're going to – if you got a guy that's getting 4.5 yards a carry, you're going to give it to the guy. Like, Belichick's not stupid. Like, just feed him if that's what it takes. But that's not a bad value at 70 or 30 or 5,300.
I'll tell you who I really like, and again, his name seems to come up every single week. But DeAndre Swift, only $5,000 going against Minnesota. A team that cannot stop anybody. It seems like when we talk about the running backs, and listen, DeAndre Swift has slowly but surely become the main guy. I mean, you said what you want. Okay, I know people are saying, "Oh, he doesn't get all the." Listen, I understand his carries are really low, but it's in the receiving game is where DeAndre Swift makes his mark. Every single week, he gets 4 to 5 targets. It's what he does, and he finds the end zone. This is what he's doing. He's finding the end zone. He has 4 touchdowns this year.
Well,
Okay.
and oh, go ahead.
No. Go ahead. What's up?
No, and it's, I mean, you're looking at a backfield that they didn't trust on Johnson. They brought in AP for who knows what reason. The team's not really performing that well. What do you do, when your team's not really lighting the world on fire and you got an aging running back and you have a guy that you drafted early in the draft? You start giving him work and figure out what you got. Unless you're the New York Jets, then you keep feeding Frank Gore.
Yeah, well, yeah.
They got P. Ryan, and they won't even give him what are you playing for, dude?
I don't
like.
understand.
Are you kidding me? You're what? You want to put a little more tread on Gore's tires? Like, is there an incentive for him to get like the career most carries?
Maybe there is. I mean, maybe you feel like you need to hand it to him for being the veteran card. I guess you could say it is. It's an unspoken word. I'm not sure what it is, but how do you not give it to Perrine or Perrine, whatever the hell his name is?
P. Ryan, I think.
Is it P. Ryan? I call him Perrine.
Yeah, because there's Samaje P. Ryan, who was the first guy. He was a Redskin, he was a Redskin at the time. I am correct.
A Washington team member, John. That's
but
politically correct here, bro.
It is politically correct, but at the time, it was not the Washington football team.
No, I know. Just
but yeah, so the Washington football team, I suppose. But yeah, he's with Cincinnati now, and that was Samaje, and yeah, they got LaMichael on the Jets. I don't know if they're related. I would assume.
So Jenna says Chase Edmonds. Jenna, I completely agree.
I like him.
We mentioned him a little earlier. I love me some Chase Edmonds, man. I really think that Chase Edmonds is the guy. Say what you want. Kenyon Drake, he has his games, but he's always Kenyon Drake has always been like this. He ended last year the final 8 games when he got traded. Looked really, really good. They gave him some money. They extended him. But he's kind of turned into the same guy, right? Very inconsistent. Week 1, 3.8 yards per carry. Week 2, 4.3, 4.1, and 2.7, 3.3, 2.4 mixed in with an 8.2, right? So he is as inconsistent as they come, and Chase Edmonds just looked like a machine. I don't know about you, but I feel like, remember when Chase Edmonds was going off and then he got hurt? That was last year. He was going off a little bit, then he got hurt. I think he bulked up a little bit because he looks like a bigger running back now. And I think that they're looking at Chase Edmonds. They know that he's more, he has more to walk around. I'm sorry, I'm laughing because she's watching that in the Irish game. Nick Mullins is trash.
So I'm glad she didn't hear our pre-podcast when I said I actually think Nick Mullins is a better fantasy quarterback than Jimmy G.
Oh, she's killing you for that, bro. See, you're getting killed for
that. I didn't even say it on air. I didn't even say it on air until now. It was just, that's my observation. I would rather start Nick Mullins if he's playing, not with their trash receivers this week by any means, but I'm just saying in general, I'm more confident in Nick Mullins putting up stats than Jimmy G, like just the 49ers offense in general.
So I have an intriguing one for you, John, before we move off the running backs. Word out of Indianapolis, Jonathan Taylor busted up his ankle a little bit. They're nursing him. He's questionable. Doesn't mean he's going to be inactive. But they're starting to fall in love out there with a guy named Jordan Wilkins. And we seen it when Jonathan Taylor went out last week. He came in and Jordan Wilkins did very well. Jordan Wilkins right now. It does say Taylor was a full participant in Thursday's practice, right? Which that usually means they practice on Thursday, they're going to play on Sunday. But my point is that, with an ankle injury of any sorts, your time always seems to be limited and it could spark up at any time. So as you go through these DraftKings lists and you look at these solid gems and high values, Jordan Wilkins at 4,200, down very, very down low on the charts, could be a flex guy that maybe you add in, based on the fact that he will get a little more volume than he's used to because of them kind of holding Jonathan Taylor back. I mean, these are the kind of, these are the kind of finds that you have to look for, right? I mean, because you can't have all $7,000 guys. Another guy I look at is Wayne Gallman at 4,500. If Devonta Freeman doesn't play, or even if he does, I think he's going to be limited. I think Goldman, as you've seen, he scored. They're not afraid. And did you know Alfred Morris was still in the friggin' league?
Nobody did.
Oh,
nobody did.
I was like, wait, what the hell? Where did he come from? I couldn't believe it. I was shocked when I seen Alfred Morris, and he was on a practice squad. I'll tell you what, 31 years old. That's when you know that you're committed. Because you're sitting there and you're on a practice squad at 31 years old on a team that's kind of trash. I'll tell you, unbelievable. Rick checking in says, I'm starting Evans over. Let me get this right to make Carl Ravage. Hilaire. Right. Crazy that my second round pick is on the bench. Cook, Connors, and Edmonds in my flex.
That's beastly.
I like it. I like the Edmonds move because here's the problem. You just never know when Big Red's going to decide to just start handing the ball like crazy to Le'Veon Bell, right? You know it's coming. You know it's coming. As much as Hilaire is remarkable right now, you know it's coming, and it's going to be that game where you start him, and you're going to be like, God damn it. I knew it. I knew it's going to happen. Chase Edmonds is going to get the full load.
Dude, yeah, in Kansas City, both of them, I mean, to me, as like a running back and the skills that they have, they're like identical. I'm not saying necessarily identical in size and shape, but the things that they could do out of the backfield. And yes, I could see it going 60-40 either way in any given game. Could it get to 70-30? I don't know. I don't know that it would. So, you know what I mean? Whatever they do as a team, each one's going to be eaten away at the other one.
I'll tell you, man, there has been some very, very strange things that's happened this year. And again, it's a COVID year. It was a year we talked about the injuries have just continued to pile up. We talk about Michael Thomas. I'm sure Jen will be asking about Michael Thomas, kind of John. But again, I think something else is wrong with Michael Thomas. I don't think, we heard about the fight. Something's going on with Michael Thomas. All of a sudden he has another injury. So this is just a really, really weird year. It is. And, this is why I was so insistent on not doing any traditional fantasy drafts. I did one and I'm paying for it. I regret it. I only did one and I'll be honest with you. I fell off course because I'm just not interested. I'm trying now. I don't want to be that guy, but it's just, there's too much going on, man. Like if you did a best ball draft, great. But that's why DFS is so relevant right now, because every single week there's somebody different that you can look at. Now let's go flip right to the wide receivers. And again, there's always going to be that $8,000 guy. If you listen, you can almost 100%, if you want, nobody's stopping you. You could go 8,100 Patrick Mahomes, 8,200 Dalvin Cook, and then 8,200 DeAndre Hopkins. 100% you could do that, but you're going to spend $25,000. You're going to spend half your salary on three guys and have to fill everything in with, you hope so, and unpredictable players, right? So but DeAndre Hopkins is about as automatic as they come. But I'll tell you what, John, here's the thing. If you look at it from any kind of perspective here, Stephon Diggs at $1,000 less from a guy like DeAndre Hopkins. If, like you said, you took Dalvin Cook, right? So if you take Dalvin Cook at 8,200, and say you want to take Patrick Mahomes at 8,100, well, then you got to kind of save some money somewhere. So if I'm going to spend, $7,400, I want to save myself $1,000. I go with a guy like Stephon Diggs going up against Seattle, right? There's going to be a lot of points scored in that game. That's going to be a shootout, in my opinion. It really is. I don't know if Tre'Davious White is healthy back for Buffalo right now. Haven't seen it yet. He is coming off of injury. But, Seattle, this isn't the Legion of Boom anymore. This isn't Richard Sherman. This isn't Earl Thomas. This isn't Cam Chancellor. These guys aren't there anymore. Or Shaq Griffin, I don't know if he's going to play, right? He is their best guy out there. But here's my thing. I look at this wide receiving core, and, from the DraftKings, like I said, you got to look at the values because there's so many wide receivers. Now, I will say, before I get to you, John, that I screwed myself last week. I decided that I'm not going to, I wanted Devontae Adams. I didn't want to pay the $8,000. So what I did was I mixed and matched. And I took a guy like Kenny Galladay, who got me a fat zero. Right? I took a guy in Nelson Aguilar who got me a fat zero. Okay. I got hurt. I should have just took that money, spent for Devontae Adams, and then took a $3,000 guy. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to do that this week because I am not trusting these lackluster players, hoping that they produce. What do you think?
Well, Aguilar, I think, was a bad decision. Galladay got hurt. I don't know if Aguilar got hurt, but I didn't envision him really producing that offense is just a weird offense. I'm sorry. Like, sometimes it's like Hunter Renfrow coming through in the clutch. Waller's there. They got Jason Witten, Waller, and what's the other guy's name that I'm a Waller owner in quite a few leagues. So this dude he's like the one catching touchdowns. I'll have the name in a second. But I'm saying, and then you got Ruggs, and then you got Edwards, and it's you don't even know how Carr's going to perform. Like, he's been like okay this year, but it's not like he's been Foster Moreau. Foster Moreau, dude. That dude, even last year, he was stealing Waller's stats away from him. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Aguilar, I think, was a bad decision, but Galladay, no, I was on Galladay too.
Yeah, he did get hurt his hip. It sucks. He went out, but again, the other guy took AJ Brown and only gives me 12 points. He scores late in the game. He's held to like no catches against the Cincinnati Bengals. Like, are you kidding me? Like, who the hell would have predicted that? That's the thing. I mean, that's why you have to be so sure. Now, I look at this list, and you get one of your guys right here sticks out to me. Juju, going up against Dallas, who's packed it in. Let's be honest. Okay, Juju, $6,200. There's a good pick. Or do you go Claypool at $5,700? Right? What do you do? There's so many different options. Right? When you look at the wide receivers, you just have to really Deontay Johnson at only $5,000.
That is my choice.
Right? So let me ask you this,
of all
John.
Those guys, that's my choice.
We just talked about these three guys last week, and they were only a couple $100 apart. Now we're talking they're really spread out. Why is Deontay Johnson so low? I don't get it. 5,000? I mean, we're talking it's $6,200 for Juju. He's $1,200 less. That's a big drop off for a guy that's essentially the number one look for Big Ben, right?
Well, I don't know what type of algorithms they have for these stats and how much human intervention there is on top of the algorithms, but you look at Deontay Johnson. I mean, he got hurt in 2 of the past 3 games. He's coming up with a couple catches. I don't have it in front of me. I could in a second, but you know what I mean. When he's in there, he's getting a bunch of targets, but then he's getting his back hurt, then he's getting his ankle hurt, and you know what I mean? He's not playing full games, getting 10 catches every week. I'll bet you he would be higher if he just didn't play in that week versus catching 1 or 2 balls. Then it looks like he played and just stunk. So that's the one I'm going with. Once again, it's the cheapest, but Claypool's not a volume monster. Could he? No. We talked about banking on touchdowns. How much touchdowns? There's a lot of variables, a lot of luck involved when it comes to touchdowns. But I can't bank on a touchdown from Claypool every week, even though he seems to. But I mean, when Deontay plays, 10 targets or 10 targets, 8 to 10 targets. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, if you break down his numbers week to week, I mean, first 2 weeks you're talking 23 targets. Then the following 2 weeks he gets three. Then in week 7 he's out week 6 because of a back. And then week 7 he comes and gets 15. Week 8 he gets three. Right. So you really, whether it's because he left the game early for injury or not, he's just very inconsistent, like you said. And Chase Claypool is just that he's not that volume guy. He's going to get plays, but he's not going to get the overall volume that you need in a number one wide receiver. Now, I'll tell you, one of the guys I really like too, John, is Jerry Jeudy. This week, I think Jerry Jeudy is starting to really cement himself out there in Denver. As long as Drew Lock can stay healthy and he can start to be. Listen, he did very well last week. He was very efficient. If they keep the game playing simple for Drew Lock and he doesn't take a ton of chances, just let Melvin Gordon run the ball, right? I think he can be very productive. Your boy Tim Patrick, who you mentioned a couple weeks ago, as a silent killer, he's been very, very good at a really low value, actually rated above Jerry Jeudy this week. But they're playing Atlanta. Like I said, I like Drew Lock at the quarterback position. I like Melvin Gordon for the running back position. I think this is a really good spot for them. They go out, from the confines of Mile High into the Dome in Atlanta, which is going to be a lot easier to play. No fans, right? Well, I mean, some fans, but 20% tops are out, right? So we're not talking about packing them in, but Jerry Jeudy, I think, was the better, more polished guy than Henry Ruggs out of the two. And I think he's going to put in a good game this week at $4,700, John. That's a really good value. And the other guy I like is McCall Hardman. You see, first week without Sammy Watkins, McCall Hardman produces. Here we go again, going up against Carolina, right? $4,800. Again, McCall Hardman showed last week. He's going to be very involved. And going forward, I think it'll be the same thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, those I definitely I got Patrick and Jeudy down as values. Hardman, yeah, I mean, he's not a volume guy, but all you got to do is break a long one for a touchdown, and you got your 3x. You got your 3 times your salary.
Now, it would be you'd be very ballsy if you went with a Denver stack. Okay, because right, that's ballsy right there.
Well, and unless you're in the $1 million contest and you stack them with Drew Lock,
that's what I'm saying.
If it comes through, but you got to hit those studs. You better hit that Kamara and Cook stack that you have along with all these Denver turds.
What he said, Denver turds, but no, it's the truth, man. I mean, that's how you see that. That's what people have to understand. It's funny because not everybody understands the logic, and you have a young son, and I have 2, and they'll sit there and I'll be like, man, like last week I was like, man, I can't believe Nelson Aguilar got me 0, and my son's like, Dad, why would you even start him? I'm like, listen. You don't understand. There's a salary cap, dude. This ain't traditional fantasy where I got to a number and I had to pick a guy. Like, you don't understand. Like, I'll throw in, they're like, Harrison Bryant. Why are you starting him? I'm like, you don't get it. He was only $2,200. Like, they don't understand the value part.
No, absolutely.
They just want, they're just talking about, oh, look, Dad, I have DK and I have Devontae and I have Derek. Yeah, that's great. Mm-hmm. I'm like, yeah, it's great. You're not getting that DFS, kid.
Yeah, playing in a 4-man league.
You know what? I remember the one year they did do that, and I was like, wait, how did you get that team? Like, unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. But yeah, listen, there's a lot of values out there. There's a lot of values, and it'll continue to be values. And that's what you have to look for. You have to just figure out, we talked about it on this show before, we have to talk about how you want to build out your system. That's all it is. And I'll tell you, it's very interesting when you see who wins and who loses and how they did it. Now, some guys get lucky. Some guys just played straight. They say, I'm going all in with the big money guys and just hoping they produce. And you know what? If you do have that logic, I'll tell you what, 50, 60, 70% of the time, you're probably going to be right. But it's that 30% that you're going to lose really bad and really hard. So again, like this was one of my hard losses this week. But let's look at the tight end because we don't give any love to the tight end. We never.
Hold on. Let me touch on a couple of my receivers.
Oh yeah, you didn't even talk. You've been so quiet. No, you know what it is? I just talk too much. John, I'm sorry.
That's all right. We're a team here. When you talk, I talk. When I talk, you talk. Now, I mentioned earlier teaming up Keenan Allen, 7,000. Look, still a decent price tag. I think you brought it up, or I know I talked about it with the Herbert pick. If I'm going with Deshaun Watson, you got Fuller at 6,800. I truly feel that Fuller's going to have one of those big games this week, but Brandon Cooks at 5,500. You mentioned Judy and Patrick at 5,500. I mean, that's a price tag I like. And if you really want to go cheap, and truthfully, I think it's going to be cheap and perform. Danny Amendola with no Galladay. I'm telling you what, when Galladay doesn't play, he puts up some numbers. I'm not saying he's going to be a number one receiver, but I will tell you at a $3,700 price tag, I will take him over any of those other guys because I think this dude is definitely going to put up more than 3 times value.
So you're not buying on the Marvin Hall talk?
No, I think it's more of an anomaly. He could, but I mean, he only had 4 catches? Did he have 5 catches?
He played well.
Yes, there's no question he played well. But just because you come out of nowhere and play well one week, think about how many guys were picked up and dropped because they did that. They came up, they played well one week, and then they went back into, mediocrity. So, I mean, you could take a flyer on him. I don't know what his price tag is, but I'm sorry. Amendola is slow and steady, and when they're hurting at wide receiver, somehow he shows up getting catches.
So let me ask you this, and our buddy Joe Z's checking in because he's on Twitter. My man Joey Z, he is the man, the ultimate gambler. I can tell you that. He's always there supporting us guys at the Gambler. We really appreciate that. Tweeting us some questions, tweeting us some players on Heat Ratio. He talks about Corey Davis. He wants to know about Corey Davis, and he says, we've seen what Corey Davis done the last 2 weeks. Can we see him continue that going forward? It almost seems like he took some targets away from A.J. Brown last week, which is concerning to me. It really is. What do you think, John?
Yeah, Corey Davis is intriguing. A.J. Brown is the number one. All right. Tannehill doesn't pass for a whole lot of yards. All right. And especially if it's a run game, if Tennessee gets up, they're grinding that out. So it can be a 180-yard, 2-touchdown game, no picks for Tannehill. Even a 3-touchdown game, 200 yards. It works out in the wash, but I mean, I don't know. Jonnu Smith has not done much the past 2 weeks. When Henry's held in check, when Jonnu Smith doesn't do anything, yes, it goes to the receivers. The offense has to go to somebody, but I don't know how much it will continue where they're both productive. So I just caution on the Corey Davis will have good games, but I think there will be games that he'll disappear as well. Actually, Tony, I asked you the start question. Did I say Corey Davis? It's between Crowder, Corey Davis, and Jerick McKinnon.
Oh, no, you didn't say Corey Davis.
Yes, Corey Davis was the other one that I have, and I was like, it's only a PPR at 6 catches. So if you have 5 catches, it's not a PPR. Once you get to 6 catches, then it's a 3-point bonus, and then you get PPR for every catch above it. Customized 20-year league. That's the way we do it. We like awarding for good performances, not just every catch. You know what I mean? You got to get to a certain threshold, then you beast. You know what I mean? That's what it is. So it's about getting the 6 catches. And Corey Davis has been getting there, but that 5-catch, 70-yard game ain't going to do nothing for me.
No, not at all. I like it though. I listen. Corey Davis is the guy that we all hope for, right? We all hope has he finally become that guy that we think he can be? It sucks because when you don't, it's like, you know what I mean? Like it's so tough, especially if you put all your eggs in that basket. And that's one thing you say. You have to hit on these guys, right? You have to hit on these guys. If you don't hit on these guys, you're in trouble, man. You're in 100%. You're in no man's land, especially when we talk about DFS. Now you mentioned Jonnu Smith, or Jonnu or Janu, whatever you want to call it, but I'll tell you, man, I hate to stay with this scenario here, But Noah Fant, $4,600. Again, we're talking 20, John, we're talking $2,600 off of Travis Kelce. 2,600. Even Darren Waller. Okay. I mean, even the top two guys after Travis Kelce, I like TJ Hawkinson at 5,100, right? I mean, listen, at the end of the day, these guys, they listen, they're extreme values. They are. They're extreme values when you look at the top guy. But again, Noah Fant at 4,600, he intrigues me. Listen, even again, Eric Ebron, just you're going up against a Dallas team that has basically packed it in. Van Der Esch and he played and Jalen Smith, they played very, very well against Philadelphia. Now, will that carry over? I'm not sure. But Ebron has steadily becoming more and more involved as he stays healthy. I mean, he's getting a consistent dose of targets. Okay, consistent. And he scored last week. The week before he didn't score, but he 6 for 50 when you're only spending $4,000 isn't that bad of a number. So, John, tight ends, give me your locks, values. What are you seeing in this position in week 9?
Well, Jonnu Smith at 3,900, I think, is my cheap way of going. Hunter Henry, I don't know. This dude, he's had the potential and he's shown us stuff, then he gets hurt. Then he's shown us stuff, then he gets hurt. Then he shows up and then he's just kind of disappeared, but I can't get off the wagon. I cannot get off the wagon. So at 4,000, I mean, I'm looking at Jonnu Smith at 39, Hunter Henry at 4,000 as kind of the floor. I mean, you could take flyers on guys that a Jimmy Graham or a Trey Burton gets another rushing touchdown or something along those lines, but I feel like those are the two kind of floor guys. That's like, I don't want to go below that unless I'm just basically throwing it in and crossing my fingers for some type of tight end production. But Gronk at 4,900, I'm sorry, with what he's done over the past 3 weeks. The dude's he's putting up numbers. Him and Brady are getting that connection back. I mean, but he had 4 targets last week, but caught all of them and for a touchdown. And the 2 weeks before that, 8 targets, 5 catches, getting like 60, 70 yards, both with touchdowns. So 3 weeks in a row, 3 touchdowns, looking at a combined 20 targets in 3 weeks with 14 catches. You give me 5 catches, a touchdown, and 50 yards receiving at the tight end for 4,900. I'm in.
I like that. I mean, that's good analysis right there, because that's the kind of stuff you have to look at, man. I mean, 100%. You have to look at those numbers, read beyond the lines, and that's what John's telling you right there. The value. That's the one to say. Who is going to give you the maximum value with the lowest risk? And again, I should say who's going to be high risk, high value, right? I mean, that's what you're really looking at, right? Not looking at low risk, high risk. I mean, because the risk is that you're putting him in your lineup. The low risk would be because the number is low, right? But you ultimately you want that max value, so you really have to look at that.
Well, yeah, and then it depends. Every single seasonal league's different. I mean, it's always buy high, sell low. I mean, that's the common theme. But sometimes you're looking at a guy where, it's the same thing. If you're playing in some big, contest versus, just a smaller thing, doing a 50-50 or whatever, sometimes you're looking for that floor, You're looking for the highest floor where, like, no matter what, this guy is going to do at minimum this. So that you're not worrying about the boom or bust where, if you have everything come up, 7s on every single one of your guesses, I mean, go try to do a 18 parlay, you know what I mean? And see how many times you hit an 18 parlay. Well, but that's what you have to do fantasy wise for these $1 million contests. I mean, that's what it is. It's no different. You have to pick. You know what I mean? The top one. I mean, forget picking up a game that's, 50-50. You got a chance to win or lose. I mean, you got to pick the top guys, 8 and have it all line up. So that's where boom or bust you need. But if you're playing in a smaller contest or head to head or fantasy, sometimes that slow and steady will get you just what you need versus throwing craps and getting nothing out of that position.
I like it, man. I like it. And now we're gonna do a little something different. We're gonna, we broke down every single position from a DFS value. We talked about specific players like Travis Fulgham, Antonio Brown. I'm not going to be one of these shows where we go game to game and break. We don't need to do that. Okay, everybody knows the games are. We're talking value on this show. Okay, and I got a little loose concept. I'm going to put John on that. I'm going to put John on the spot here. Okay, it's something I'm thinking about. I'm always thinking about crazy stuff as we're going on. Something we could add in, some fun, so we can start keep rankings every week. We're at the halfway point of fantasy football, so it's about time we did a little something here. Okay, and this is what I'm gonna do, John. We're gonna go two guys. I'm gonna break down every position. We're gonna take two matchups from every position: quarterback, receiver, running back, tight end. It's gonna be two really high guys and two really like mid-tier guys or value guys. We're gonna pit them up against each other, put them both in a firebox, and tell me who has the better week. Okay, so right off the bat, we're going to start with the quarterback position. You're going to pick, I'm going to pick. Okay, we're going to tally these picks, and we're going to see who won, and we can talk about that next week. Right off the bat, we're going to go with two 100% highlight reels right here. Kyler Murray against Miami or Russell Wilson against Buffalo. Who scores the most points in week 9?
That's a close one.
I know.
I want to go Kyler Murray, but I mean, I'm going Kyler Murray. I'm going Kyler Murray. Look, against the Miami team where Tua is only going to pass for 100 yards, and Chase Edmonds has his day, like you're predicting. I think he will too, but I'm still going Kyler Murray.
I'm going to follow you there. I'm going to go Kyler Murray because, listen, whenever you play a game in November in Buffalo, I just never know what the conditions are going to be.
Yes.
Right. So as much as I love Russell Wilson, I just don't know what to expect weather-wise. It's Thursday right now. I'm not Hurricane Schwartz. I haven't looked at the Doppler. So I'm going to go right off the bat and say Kyler Murray has the more productive game. Dude, now we're going to go.
Yeah, no, even if you did watch the news, how often is the news if you're looking on a Thursday and you're looking at what is the weather on Sunday between 12 and 4, because that's the only time that matters. It doesn't matter if it rains Sunday. If there's no rain between 12 and 4, you know what I mean, when the game's on, it doesn't matter. How often are they right 4 days in advance for a 3-hour window? Think about this.
I know. It's why I always tell my kids you want to be two things in life: a meteorologist or a left-handed reliever. Two left-handed reliever, you come in once a week and throw a couple pitches like Jesse Orosco, or you could be a weather guy like what was the guy John Belair, who wound up getting the storm of the century wrong, gets kicked out of Philadelphia. But Jenna checks in, she says Murray. So if Jenna continues to play alone, we're going to tally Jenna too. We'll see for the three of us who comes out on top. So nobody takes Russell Wilson. So now we're going to go to a lower tier set here. Still on the quarterbacks, okay? We're going to go lower tier set. Tongue twister. We're going to go Matt Ryan against Denver or Drew Brees against Tampa Bay. Who scores more fantasy points in week 9? Go ahead, John.
Matt Ryan.
Well, that was easy, huh?
That to me, that was very easy.
Okay. And Jenna's checking in. Jenna says Matt Ryan. I'm going to go with the old dog here. Okay. Everybody been trashing Drew Brees. He can't throw anymore. Has no accuracy. You know what? Drew Brees is going to come out. Atlanta stinks. Okay. Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, not Michael Thomas. Doesn't matter. Okay. Jared Cook's out there. Alvin Kamara. I'm going Drew Brees. I think he has a better week. Now the firebox goes to the running back position. Go with your boy, John. 100% Pittsburgh's own James Conner. Okay, who scores more points, James Conner against Dallas or that rumbling monster Derrick Henry versus the Chicago Bears? Who you going with? That's a tough one. Make these hard, man.
That is a tough one. That is a tough one. In daily, for me, it's easy because there's a big price tag difference.
Yes,
you know
exactly.
what I mean?
It's tough. The two really good matchups for both of them.
I'm gonna go Derrick Henry.
Okay. Derrick Henry. John's going Derrick Henry. I am going to do the opposite. I am going to go with James Conner because specifically, I just think that the Chicago defense has been playing a lot better up front. Khalil Mack back. I think they may shut Henry down a little bit. Again, whenever you play Dallas, I think you have to start whoever you play against Dallas because I think they're just packed it in. I do. I think they're done. Andy Dalton goes on the COVID list. You know, the defense knows they're going to have to come in and try to save a game. I don't think it's going to work. So I'm going to go James Conner on that one. Rick checks it. Our buddy Rick checks it. He says Wilson and Breeze. So he's with me. I like that. So
he's not coming over my house anymore.
I love it. So let's go lower tier system here. Okay, and let's go against these two. This is going to be a good one, John. It's going to make you think a little bit, right? Got to make these hards. Again, Firebox question for the running backs. David Johnson against Jacksonville or Devin Singletary against Seattle? Those two guys, who's coming out of the Firebox on fire?
Ooh.
Tough one.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go David Johnson. Just because I feel that there's more guaranteed volume there. And if they're up in the game, I mean, he's the guy. It's not like they're going to run out the clock with Dookie. All right. Dookie Johnson ain't running out the clock. So I'm going with David Johnson, especially with Moss looking good. I mean, what annoys me is I had Moss on my roster for like 6 weeks and I just couldn't. I needed the spot. I couldn't do anything. I needed a guy to start, you know what I mean? But, you know, he's going to eat into Singletary's time. So I'm going David Johnson.
So Jen is jumping on board as well. She goes David Johnson. And I'm going to make it a trifecta here. I'm going to go David Johnson only because listen, Singletary, we're talking about starting to get a split there with Zach Moss. And I think Zach Moss eventually overtakes him. So I'm just not trusting that situation. So I would definitely go. Rick checks it. He says, Connor and Johnson as well. Right. He beat me to Moss taking over that backfield. Our buddy Jason checking in from All About the Birds. He's the gambler guy over there, fancy guy. Jason, much love, man. My bad. One of the two best fan shows out there right now. Too bad they are on at the same time. Jason, I know. Here's what happened this week. We parlayed one night because of the election. So we skipped Tuesday. This would have been last night. So yeah, I'm not. Listen, you guys are tremendous. You do a great job. We're going to collab too. We're going to get a little collaboration. I talked to Phil. Hopefully, maybe next week we get the four of us on. We go quad box out there and we do a little sports show. We go Heat against All About the Birds and see who comes out on top. Jenna says Jenna checking in live 21-3 Green Bay. Like I mean, I think we could have. I'm curious, Jenna, who scored? Can you let us know who scored? I'm very, very curious here. So let's go to the wide receiver position, and we're gonna look at the wide receiver position. Right on, God, love the show, Jason. Right back at you, buddy. I appreciate it, man. As always. So we're gonna go into the Firebox once again, and we're gonna go right off the bat. John, we're just taking the Titans here, the two Titans, because Devontae's already playing, okay? It's Thursday night. So we're going to go DK Metcalf or DeAndre Hopkins. DK at Buffalo and D-Hop at Miami. Right off the bat, two studs. Who has the bigger game, John?
Hopkins.
Wow, you said that with no hesitation whatsoever.
It's an odds thing. I mean, either of them can do it. I like both of them. Don't get me wrong, but I don't see Kirk or Fitzgerald having a big day to hurt Hopkins as much as Tyler Lockett could really beast, and Metcalf might not do it. I like them both 100%, but I'm going with Hopkins. And I mean, we talked about the Buffalo weather. Actually, if it's bad weather, that'll still be better for Metcalf. Chris Carson might play. I'm going Hopkins, but I like them both.
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's hard not to like them both, right? They both have great matchups either way. Listen, even though I D Hop is my guy, but I have to go DK here. DK has just showed to me he's the next Megatron. He is. I mean, this the physicality of his day, how quick he is, how much of a beast he is. He is. Listen, a lot of people, compare him because of the way he's so physical to a guy like Terrell Owens. This guy, there's not many guys who are going to be able to bump and run with DK Metcalf. And he runs a 4.3, which is ridiculous. At that, I mean, I don't know, I'm going to cry every time I think about the Eagles pass on him. So I'm going to go DK. I think right off the bat, I think DK has it. Jenna says DK, I'll never pick him. She don't like DK. She took DeAndre Hopkins. We'll see what Rick checks in with, but we're going to go to the lower tier. Again, lower tier here. We're going to go down. John, you mentioned this guy earlier. Brandon Cooks against Jacksonville, or Devontae Parker against Arizona. Who has the better points?
You know what? I'm going to go out on a limb. You want a hot take?
Yes.
Brandon Cooks receives more yards than Tua passes for.
Whoa.
So that's how I feel about Devontae Parker.
Wow.
I like Devontae Parker. I really thought, especially with Fitzpatrick behind center, but no, not at all. Did Tua ever look to his right? Through that entire first game, did he ever look to his right? Everything, he's seeing half the field. Sorry, you're going to pass for. He is not going to pass for over 200 yards. And there's just no. End of story.
Well, I'm going to go Devontae Parker because I think he is going to pass over 200 yards. I think he popped his cherry last week. He's good. He's in. He got. Listen, I know he only played 73 yards. I get he threw a touchdown. He actually threw 2. One was called back. He looked hesitant. He looked a little shaky. He's a rookie. It's his first game, right? The stage is big for him. That's okay. So I think he comes and throws 200 something yards this week. I'll go 225. For 2. I think he puts all the skeptics to rest, and I'm going to take Devontae Parker because I think he's going to be a big recipient of all those yards.
Dude, well, I'm saying Tua would throw for 225 if he looked at the whole field. He only looks at half the field. So
that was in week 1.
He only gets 112. He only gets 112 yards.
Come on, John. You're killing a young guy, man. You're killing a young guy.
Yes,
right?
I kill every young quarterback that has come in the league for the past 15 years, and I will continue to do it. Yeah, Burrow and Herbert have proved me wrong, and that's fine. I'll take the hit on those ones when you're right on 50 million others.
Wow, look at that. I like that. Look at John being all cocky. Well, you and Jenna are going to have the same record. So far, you and Jenna had the same picks. So that's I see a lot of jigsaws by himself here on this list.
We're me and Jenna, we could disagree if it was Jimmy G or Nick Mullins. That's the pick. That's the pick. Who do you want as the San Fran quarterback to win you the most games?
Oh man, let me get all right. Let's close this out and go to the tight ends. We never give the tight ends any love. We're giving a lot of love tonight on the Firebox. Okay, we're gonna go right off the bat right here. Jared Cook against Tampa Bay, and on the other side of the field, Rob Gronkowski against the Saints. Who scores more?
I can't believe that I would ever preach to Gronk's performance and how I don't want to say impressed, but I mean, he's coming into his own with Tom Brady. So you heard me preach him. I'm sorry. Cook's you don't know what Breeze is going to do. You don't know what that offense is going to do. You don't know if Michael Thomas is there. You don't know who's catching balls from where. No, I'm going Gronk.
I like it. I'm going to go Gronk as well. Jenna check in and say Gronk. We'll see what Rick checks in and says. And for the last question of the night, we're going to close the show out on this. We're going to give you a Pittsburgh guy, John. All right, we're going to go Eric Ebron facing those good old Dallas Cowboys, or we're Jonnu Smith facing the Bears. who has the better game? John, you're on the clock.
Jonnu Smith. Big
You
game,
love
I think.
you love some Jonnu Smith.
Dude, see, I'm not biased. I'm hating on the Steelers tight end. You know what I mean?
Well, Jenna also says Jonnu Smith. I'm going to go, surprisingly, I'm going to go on the other side of this, and I'm going to say Eric Ebron.
That was not surprising. I knew for some reason that you brought up Ebron earlier. I knew you were going with Ebron.
I kind of show my love affection sometimes, but there's a lot of Jigsaw's here alone on his island here. So we're going to see if Jigsaw knows his shit or he's just a lot of hot air over here in the studio. We'll see. We'll find out. When we do episode number 16 next week. But great show as always, man. I want to thank everybody for checking in. We went hour 15. That's good, man. I want to. We keep the fantasy show between 45 and 90. I think. That Jenna, hook us up. We got a question. Ask away. Any questions you have, as always, we're always here. And I'm going to guess this is for John. She likes John's takes.
No, right? But Toad, we said, see if Jigsaw or how many we get, and we disagree on some. But you know what? But it's not just about where we disagree and who's right or who's wrong. The bigger question is, what about the consensus picks? You know what I mean? That's where it really comes down, because if we're lock in step with a consensus pick and we're hitting 90%, lock it in, heat ratio. You know what I mean?
Listen, man, I have to tell you, and I'm not tooting our own horn here, but I've been texted many a times saying, hey, listen, you got it right again. Just saying, between me and John. Again, great show, guys. Rick, thanks for checking in. Oh, listen, Jenna says, why is your nickname Jigsaw? It's funny. It's very ironic that Jenna asked this, because this morning, or I shouldn't say this morning, but this afternoon, before my fantasy fix day came on again, every single day on Fox Sports The Gambler, you can catch 350. I throw a segment out. Tonight, I started two guys, Trent Taylor and Tyler Irvin. They were my low budget picks. Okay, but because Sean Brace gave me the nickname Jigsaw. So, Jenna, what I will tell you is, if you go on Twitter and you go back in time on PhillyInfluencer.com, and when we were in the studio before COVID hit, we were doing weekly shows. I had people ready to want to rip my head off. And sometimes my takes are a little extreme for people. And again, the funny thing is, again, somebody labeled me as a 10%ers, right? They said the 10%ers because I'm 10% right, 90% wrong. I flip it. I'm 90% right, 10% wrong, okay? But they call me Jigsaw because basically I kind of rip stuff up, get everybody nuts, get everybody crazy, and then I kind of I disappear, right? So, and then at the end, what's funny is, like Sean said today, she's like, dude, he absolutely infuriates me because then he's right. And then I have to sit there and be like, I can't believe this dude was right. I had everybody nuts the other day when I was said, again, Ben Simmons is going to be traded. So, again, and everybody was going nuts. Al getting in the Al. Yo, what's up, Al? How you doing, buddy? And Jenna says, that makes sense. I could see that, right? Yeah, Jenna, I'll tell you, I do. I make people a little crazy every now and then.
Dude, you have infuriated me over the years. I mean, we're coming up on 3 years of this podcast.
3 years, man.
Well, not. I mean, we still did fantasy and incorporate.
Yeah,
I mean,
but 3 years.
We've modified, but I mean, it's been 3 years. You've infuriated me. I mean. We used to get into some screaming battles, and you were not always right, but for how asinine some of the stuff you came up with, you hit it way more than I felt that you should have. So I will say, yes, you really do. I mean, the Curtis Samuel pick last week was, could that have been any more spot on live as we're going through it?
Oh, wasn't that great? I mean, that was spectacular. And he scores twice, which is even amazing. And then, it's funny. A couple weeks ago, I'm like, you know what? Watch out for that Isaiah McKenzie, man. I just have a feeling tonight in Buffalo, there was no John Brown. They're going to, and lo and behold, what happens? Boom, he scores. So, I mean, listen, and again, there's luck is huge in this, but if you look at the trends and you look at the deep inside the analysis and the statistics, you can pick some winners, man. I'm telling you, you gotta weed through all the crap. And that's all you got to do. Weed through it all, and sometimes you got to go with your gut. Al says he's starting Big Ben this week. I like that move. John's like shaking his head back and forth. He doesn't know. He doesn't like.
I truthfully, watching the Steelers all these years, it's like it's almost too enticing. Where it's like that poison apple. Like, go ahead, take a bite out of it. Like, I don't know, him on the road, big favorite. They should blow him out. I mean, seriously, what happens if Ben throws 2 picks and they go down 10-0? I mean, right off the bat, I don't know. I call me a pessimist. Look, yes, he should thrive. He should tear that defense up. They should crush the team, but I don't know.
It's funny. Our boy Joe Z, he's always checking out on Twitter, and he comments on Twitter, so it doesn't get to the Paragraph stream, but I'm reading right now. He says, you can't take Henry. He's playing hurt. And yes, Gronk will have a big day. Saints give up big yards to tight ends. So my man, I'll tell you, my man Joey Z, he don't mess around. And he's a baller, man. When it comes to he's like Paulie Walnuts, man. He's a baller. So
you know what? Al didn't say. He said he was starting Ben this week. There's 2 Bens playing in that game. Maybe he played us and he's starting Ben DiNucci.
Oh, Al, I'll tell you what. There ain't no way help Al. If somebody ever started Ben DiNucci,
actually,
man.
That's what he's talking about. I think he said, "I'm starting Ben this week." LOL. That wasn't Big Ben. That was Mini Ben.
And he said, and the running back with his name. I'm lost. I'm not sure what that means.
Alfred Morris.
Jenna says, John, who's the starting quarterback for the Niners next football season? Oh, there's a good question.
Jimmy G.
I don't think it is.
I do.
I don't. I like her follow up. I say they draft Trevor Lawrence and get Matt Ryan. I'll tell you, man. I like the Matt Ryan move. I do. I think it's going to be to that point in Atlanta where, here's the thing. San Francisco is going to be the team next year that, when healthy, they're going to have all the right pieces to win right now. So if they can get a veteran guy like Matt Ryan, I think that behooves them to do so 100%. Oh, I'm sorry. I looked at it real quick. She says, no, Trey Lance from North Dakota. I'm sorry. I just see TL and so if you look at that real fast, it looks like maybe it's a typo. It's a Trevor Lawrence. She says Trey Lance from North Dakota. Hey, listen, at the end of the day, like I said, the Niners have a lot of pieces already in place. They just need to get healthy. And I honestly think that Jimmy G could be the weakest link. I do. And I think if you get a guy like Matt Ryan, maybe 1 or 2 years left, I think that could be a big deal. Cowboys pass defense has been good the last 4 weeks. Rick says you can run over them. Connor, that's Al second in. What's that? That's what he meant. What's his running back's name? I forgot. James Connor. And Trevor checking in. Yo, what's up, Trev? Checking in as always. Coming through. Appreciate it. But yeah, listen, man, I appreciate everybody for checking in. It's a great show, man. I have fun doing these. Me and John have a lot of interesting takes. I like them. I like how we're not always on the same page. I like everybody checking in. Everybody part of the Heat Ratio family. We completely agree. Completely appreciate it. As always, I have to up my game, but got to get this show on a Gambler, which it is. I just never put it on there, but we are getting there. I promise. Who do you like in the 2020 quarterback draft class? Now, I'll tell you, Trevor. I'm going to be the first one to tell you. I'm not going to toss anything out there because I'm not a college guy. I don't really talk NCAA. And my buddy Mark Drumheller, listen, from the Gambler, is tremendous in college betting for breakfast. Check it out. on Saturdays. Does a tremendous job. 10 a.m. I don't talk. It's one of my limitations. I just don't talk. So I couldn't even tell you, besides Trevor Lawrence, what other quarterbacks, Josh Fields, are even available, right? Because I just don't follow it. Al says, so Big Ben and Connor and Redskin, or the Washington football team, Al. Washington football team. The Redskins defense. Listen, anybody, what's say? Trevor says, no, I'm talking the quarterback class that's in the pros this year. Oh, okay. I see what he's saying. Oh, you have to look around because you're going to have guys that are backups right now. Listen, the intriguing name to me is going to be two guys. It's going to be Jameis Winston and Dwayne Haskins. And the reason why I say that is because they're going to be guys looking for starting jobs. There's going to be some teams out there that are going to, they're going to, they're going to panic basically. They're not going to be able to draft a guy, and they're going to say, you know what, we need to get somebody in here to fill in. And obviously, Jameis Winston, that to me, that was a mulligan, or I should say, a signing of good faith by our man Sean Payton, because there's no mistake about it that Taysom Hill is the up and coming guy out there in New Orleans. So maybe they get him. I don't think he's going to sign on to be a backup once again. I think he will get a starting role. Somebody's going to take a chance on him. I'm telling you, somebody's going to take a chance on him. So I think that's the intriguing part. Jenna says my lock is Dallas beating Pittsburgh. Wow. I think, yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, man. Dallas beating Pittsburgh. How about this? If Dallas, I'm going to say this right now, Jenna. You hear this on tape. If Dallas beats Pittsburgh, we will set this show up. I will put this mic to the side. I will give you the link, and you will host this show next week. Jenna will host the show if Dallas beats Pittsburgh. She get on. You can get it. Trevor says, "Stay off the weed." Listen, I tell you what. Here's the thing: you just never know this year in the NFL. You just never ever know. So listen. Exactly. So that could be fun. So I'm telling you right now, if everybody hears me, if Dallas beats Pittsburgh, Jenna will be hosting this show next week on the Firebox. I think that would be fantastic. And then her and John could go back and forth, and Jigsaw could just be the referee. Al says not in a million years. You never know. Ben DiNucci might be carving us up a special this week. She says, John, get ready. Get ready, John. But yeah, we're gonna get out of here. As anyway, survivor pick. Rick says my survivor pick is Houston this week. Interesting. I like it. Well, I mean, it's got to be getting close. I mean, with the picks here, right? That's good against Jacksonville. Against who knows a quarterback. I kind of like that pick.
We're on our way out the door. As dumb as it sounds, I've had defense decisions to make this week. But it's still points are points. You know what I mean? Like, you still got to start somebody. And, I got the Colts going up against Baltimore, who I think is going to be ticked off. That Colts have been my defense for most of the year. I've been, riding with them, had the Rams in one league on a bye. Not that they were an every week starter, but Houston Texans were a pickup. Giants were a pickup against the Washington football team. And I think so those are two that are possibilities.
Look at Trevor checking in, saying he likes the Dolphins and the Raiders this week. Wow.
I don't know about the Raiders. Dolphins,
Bears or Bucks this week for defense, he says. I like the Bears defense this week.
Bears or Bucks? I'm going Bucks all day. Bucks defense doesn't come out.
Yeah, they're playing well, man. Todd Bowles has them balling out there. It's one thing. So, great defensive coordinator, man.
Unless we're talking salary wise could be different. But
yeah, if you're talking DFS, you're talking salary wise. We'd have to see. Now I'm intrigued salary wise what we're talking about here. I mean, you're talking. We're talking the Bears at 3,200, right? Or we're talking actually. Wow, where are we? What, they don't even have the Buccaneers listed because it's only the I had 3,600. Yeah, okay, 3,600. Yeah,
I mean, the top defense, Steelers at 4,900,
that's crazy because they're playing
almost five
Dallas.
G's.
I
And
would
then
never spend 5,000 on a defense
no,
ever,
no.
ever.
And then they have to get a defensive touchdown, period, to even like come close to making value.
Yes.
Um,
I mean, look what
Patriots.
the Dolphins did last week. The Dolphins did that on like $2,500.
Yes, because that's how random it is. You're absolutely right.
Trevor says he took the Dolphins last week and made some money. Good for you, Trev.
Yes.
Good for you. Outright. Like Mike, you've been outright. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. But yeah, we're going to get out of here. Thanks for everybody checking in with an hour and a half. Great show as always. Great love from the support group. Great love for the family. Heat Ratio 2020. Let's get bigger in 2021. For myself, my host, Tony J. Socotillo at TCotillo23. John Coger at PGH John 36. Follow us at Heat Ratio Sports on Twitter. Everywhere you get your podcasts at, make sure you subscribe. YouTube, subscribe as well. The videos will always be on there. We're uploading content every single day. Al says I had the defense last week and got 20 points. I'll tell you, the defense could be secret finds when we talk, especially in a DFS game. So everybody, as always, stay healthy. And remember, Sunday morning, 9:30 a.m., I will be going live on the Gambler feed, live from my studio, but remotely for Fox Sports The Gambler, talking Sunday service fantasy, getting those picks started, getting those latest updates, getting it in. And if you can catch me on Saturdays, 10:30 a.m., follow Fox Sports The Gambler. Check it out. I will be on This Week in Football with Pat Callahan and Joe Torty from 97.5. Blowing it up, having fun, taking some picks. As always, stay safe, stay healthy, and see you next week.